Releasing in Australian cinemas on the 5th of June is a new film called The Great Lillian Hall, starring Jessica Lange. And it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the Pulitzer Prize and Tony Award-winning director of the film, Michael Cristofer. Michael, welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Great to talk to you, and this is such an impressive film and such a beautiful acting performance from Jessica, which we'll talk about. But how did you get involved in the film in the first place?
Um, there was a script sort of floating around New York and LA, and it was based on the life of an actress, a theater actress, very famous theater actress in New York City, named Marion Seldes. And she happened to be the actress when I was very young. It was like 1969. I looked it up. In 1969, I was cast in a two-character play with Marion Seldes, and that's where we met. And when we met, and we became friends, and we stayed friends for her entire life. And at the end of her life, she did slip into dementia. And in fact, I was on stage with her, and so was Jessica. Jessica Lange and I and Marion we were on stage. It was a presentation of the works of Tennessee Williams in New York City, and Marion was reading one of his letters, and she started reading the letter, and then she stopped, and she went back to the beginning, and she started reading the letter again, and she stopped, and she went back to the beginning, and then we realized she was in trouble, and we had to sort of finesse her off the stage. So so I was I knew her, and I was with her at sort of crucial times during her life. So when I heard that the script was going around, I sought it out. I said I wanted to read it, and it was a good script by a very inexperienced writer, um, and it was a sort of a sad script about dementia. And they were looking for a director, and I said, "Look, I don't want to make a sad film about dementia. It's been done, and it's been done well." Um, uh, and the first thing I would do, if you see the film, the opening night of the play in the original script happened in the middle of the story, and then the rest of the story was this long, slow decline into illness. And I said, look, the first thing I'm going to do is move the opening night to the end of the story, because yes, this is a terrible thing that's happening to her, but in the face of this terrible thing, there is enormous courage, and there is enormous strength, and there is enormous humor, and there is enormous. And as soon as I did that, I suddenly knew what the movie was about. And it was suddenly about courage in the face of our mortality. And then it became a universal story. It's a story for all of us, because none of us get out alive. Something is going to happen to all of us, and we are going to have to face our mortality. What the beauty of humanity, human beings, is that in the face of that mortality, there is so much courage, there is so much living, there is so much fight to maintain who we are, to maintain our identity in the face of things that are trying to take that away from us.
Mm.
And that, Jessica and I were very, very clear on how we structured everything from there on out. That is what the film's about. And I think that, especially in her performance, I think that's what we've accomplished.
Oh, it's a terrific performance, and you've sort of explained already how you've worked with Jessica to evoke that performance, and she is so good in the role.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's one, probably it's at least one of the very best of her performances. And I think it came at the right moment in her life. I think she was exactly the right age to play this. She's been, you know, you start, once you cross the 70-year-old mark, you start thinking about life in different ways. And yeah, and she especially is drawn to characters who are on the edge, some edge or another, one edge
Mm.
or another, one kind of edge or another, and and she really took to this, and it was really a great treat because we've known each other for I I think about 35 years, and
Mm.
we met on one of the worst movies ever made. It was so bad. I couldn't even tell you the title because they changed it so many times trying to salvage it, but nothing worked. But so, as I keep saying, often you bond more strongly on bad experiences than you do on good experiences, and we did, and we remained friends. And finally, we got to work together. So that was fantastic.
It is, it is. And I just wanted to check, was it Marion's daughter who wrote the screenplay?
No, the original was written by Marion's niece.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay,
it was
okay,
Marion's niece. Yeah.
okay. And then you worked the screenplay and did a great job in transforming it. So well done.
Well, it allowed me to use so much. I put into the script so much of what I know about the theater,
Mm.
about the rehearsal process, about the performance process, about the people, about New York. Um, that was, yeah, that was all added to the script. I put all that in.
Yes. Oh well, well done on that. It's such a great watch, the film, and having the rest of the cast like Kathy Bates as her assistant and Pierce Brosnan, and I also love the daughter played by Lily Rabe. I think is her name. A terrific cast.
Yeah. Well, what happens when you're doing a film like this and you have what I thought I had sort of accomplished was a good script, then you go out looking for actors, and of course there's no money, so you end up begging people to do it, and you also go to your best friends and say, please come do this, help me out. But the Kathy, of course, I went to her immediately because she and Jessica have a relationship that goes back 20, 25 years. So that took care of that relationship. That meant it was a lot less directing I had to do. The two of them are, well, they are very much like the characters in the film, and they had that relationship. It's set in stone, and they love each other. And so that was a dream casting. Lily Rabe, I've known since she was 5 years old.
Mm.
She's the daughter of a very famous playwright, David Rabe.
Ah,
Um, and she's been around the theater forever. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her mother's name. It's terrible. Her mother was actress, of star actress. Damn, that's
D-
terrible.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Keep going.
Yeah. But anyway, so she knew the territory. She was the daughter of an actress
Hmm.
and the daughter of a playwright. And she's just a very not she's kind of well known in some television and certainly on stage. She's done Shakespeare. She's done everything on stage. Um, but her performance in this is just extraordinary, and it was wonderful. And again, she had worked with Jessica before, so that helped.
Yes, yes. Oh, look, it's a terrific ensemble cast, and what I liked was the insights behind the scenes of putting on the Cherry Orchard,
Yeah,
which is the key play in the film, and of course there are metaphors about the character and about the story that are part of the Jessica Lange character as well, which all work so well.
Yeah, yeah, it was very fortunate. I was in a production of The Cherry Orchard in 1977
Ah,
with on Broadway with Raul Julia and Meryl Streep and Irene Worth, and it was a famous production directed
mm,
by Andre Serban. So I knew the play pretty well.
mm,
And when I was working on this, I realized the more I used of the cherry orchard that paralleled what was going on with the main character,
mm,
uh, the better it got. And so it is, and especially at the end, when she's on stage and she's talking about goodbye to my house. And
mm,
the house is not just the house, it's the theater and her life in the theater and her
yeah.
life. Um, it was really a gift. So we say thanks to Mr. Chekhov, I think,
Yeah.
for helping us out.
Absolutely. No, that works so well. And I love the what you've put into the film also. There are some behind the scenes interviews that sort of happen,
Yeah,
shot in black and white, which I found very interesting, as a counterpoint to what's happening, with the characters and on stage. And it just gives that extra feel, including the references to All About Eve, which I found quite amusing as well.
yeah, yeah. They were sort of unavoidable. Once you had the relationship between Jessica and Kathy Bates, the Thelma Ritter role of from All About You, yeah, that was sort of unavoidable. But again, I think I added all those interview things, and because it was it was an opportunity to say so much of what I wanted to say about the theater, about people who work in the theater, and what they are about, and how they view their jobs, and um, so I know they probably don't quite make sense, but other directors have done it. Francois Truffaut always has people speaking to camera suddenly. Um, there was sort of a reason for them, uh, but I couldn't resist, and there was so much material that I wanted to get in, and I think they do work. So
They do, absolutely. No, I was quite entranced by the film as it progressed and as and in the way you directed it. I also just need to comment on the great look of the film by cinematographer Simon Dennis and the music, which works so well by Mac Quayle.
yes, Mac is a genius. Mac Quayle is a genius. I acted in a television series called Mr. Robot, and with Rami Malek,
Ah,
and Mac did all the music for that. And I would every time I watched anything of done, I was always struck by how specific, and I don't know how helpful the music was in Mr. Robot. But it was all very electronic. And I just had this suspicion that that he would respond to doing something that was more acoustic. And so I asked him to do it, and I couldn't have been happier. I mean, we had real instruments, real violins, real piano, real piano. It was like, and so unusual now to do that. Um, but he did, and I thought he did it beautifully, and the music really enhanced it. And the same with Simon Dennis. Um, very fantastic. I mean, very young, and he surrounded by what I call his toys, all these toys on the set. He could do things on the set that could change the color in the palette in the thing. It's amazing. It's amazing what can be done in the moment. And we also had wonderful operators. I ended up with Simon's help. I used almost constantly, almost always was using three cameras, not just two, but three. Um, and we had an extraordinary operator, Stuart, who spent almost the whole shoot um, with a steady cam, with a moving camera, and it just took. It was very important because it's a story about the theater. It was very important to have it feel cinematic, not classical theater, not like it's a proscenium, not. And so we used the wider screen, and then I used a lot of camera movement. Uh, so even when there were, like in the living room of the apartment, there Kathy Bates and Jessica and Lily Rabe, it's a scene where three people are talking, but I don't think they ever once stopped moving. The behavior in the room was really important to me, and Simon was really very helpful with that. Was breaking through and making it feel like we were in fact watching a film, not watching a play.
Yes. Oh no, that worked really well. It's very cinematic and looked great on the screen. We should mention. I mentioned that you were a Pulitzer Prize winner, Tony Award winner, and then for Shadowbox, and that was also then filmed as well. So
Yeah,
that was quite. I remember it. It's quite an incredible piece of work.
yeah, that was Paul Newman. Um, Paul came, saw the play in New York, and phoned me and said he'd like to do a film version of it. And we did the film. I think we did it for television. I think we did it for Showtime or one of those networks, but it was back in 1980.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, and then he put Joanne Woodward in it, and that's how I became friends with them, and I was friends with them right up until Paul died, and still sort of trying to stay in touch with Joanne, who's suffering somewhat now with, and in fact, with some dementia.
Uh,
Excuse me. Um, but that was a really he was Paul was a very good director. He didn't direct many films, but he brought together a terrific cast, and Jimmy Broderick and Valerie Harper and um, Christopher Plummer and
hmm.
Joanne, and yeah, and that was a really great. I think we won the Golden Globe Award. I think we did.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I know I've got very limited time, so I just want to ask you one more question. Are you working on another project at the moment, Michael?
Two things actually. When Pierce was on the set, we were working. He mentioned that he had read a script of mine from about 10 years ago. He said, "Whatever happened to that script?" I said, "Well, nothing ever happened with that script, and it's sitting on a shelf waiting to be done." And so I said, "Why don't you take a look at it again?" So he did. So we're trying to set it up. It's a kind of a half thriller, half art film about a film director who's having mental issues and cannot quite tell the difference between what he's imagining as a movie and what is really happening in real life. So that's one. And the other thing is, um, Jessica and I are. I've done a script about Marlene Dietrich,
Ah,
Yeah, it's about Dietrich after her film career was over. She started doing a sort of cabaret act in Las Vegas for a lot of money, and she it was like 20 minutes, 8 songs, and that's all they wanted her to do, and then so they she wouldn't keep people away from the gambling tables, and so she did it. And after the first season, she went back to do it a second time, and she lost her musical director, and they sent her this young 27-year-old composer named Burt Bacharach.
Yeah.
And the relationship between the two of them, it's just the most wonderful love story.
Mm,
Um, it was never a sexual relationship, but it was probably probably one of the most important relationships of her life and of his life, really.
mm,
Um, and he took the 20 minutes and the 8 songs and he turned it into a 2 hour performance for her, which she took to Broadway and London and Paris and all over the world. She went back to Germany, where she hadn't been since she left. And she left Germany and burned her passport and became an American citizen and was entertaining the troops on the front line during World War II. She finally went back to Germany, and there was an incident where some people were welcoming her home, but the others were protesting her being there at all. And in fact, one woman came up to her with a bouquet of flowers and gave it to her and then spat in her face and called her a traitor.
mm,
She went on that night in the performance, and she sang all the songs written by Jewish composers for the audience, and the audience. And the other great story is she went to Tel Aviv, and she arrived, and the concert promoter said to her, "Look, you have to understand it's against the law here in Israel to speak or sing the German language on stage, in public, on film, anywhere." She said, "I don't understand." I said, "Most of these people are German refugees. German is their language." And why? He said, "No, no, no, it's against the law. We just canceled the Mahler second because of the words in the symphony are in German. We cannot." She said, "All right." So she got on stage and started her performance. And she sang some of the songs in English. And then she stopped and she said, "I know this lullaby." She said, and she said, "It's much more beautiful in the German language. Will you let me sing it for you?" And there was a gasp in the audience. Nobody knew what to do. And she said to them, "They took everything from us. Don't let them take our language too."
mm.
And she sang the song. The audience was in tears. The orchestra was in tears. And the next day they changed the law.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
What a
She was
story.
an extraordinary woman. And that time in her life was an extraordinary time because, then she ended in Paris, isolated in an apartment, hiding from the world. And
Mm, mm.
so anyway, we're looking for money for both of those films.
Okay. Well, I hope both of those projects reach fruition because they're such excellent ideas and would make great films. Well, look, I've got to go. We've been speaking to the director Michael Cristofer for his film The Great Lillian Hall, on release in Australian cinemas from the 5th of June. Michael, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Great to meet you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.